Hi, folks. This is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report. You know, the one thing that I wanted to talk about today is the difference in some of these fish and their habits. And we've talked about this before, but I think it's fascinating. And it brings up a story that I wanted to tell you that years ago on this very radio show, I remember telling. But the years have passed, and a lot of you probably didn't hear it. But remember that certain fish that we tend to glorify are actually scavengers. One of them is lake trout and another is northern pike. And there may be others that are scavengers to one point or another, but they really are scavengers. And what I mean by that is a lot of times they will attack something just to wound it, know it, and it's going to flutter down to the bottom and it's going to die. Or they'll go along and be looking at the bottom. And anything that is just passed away, maybe it's spoiled already for all I know, but they will pick up and eat. And because of this, one of the techniques of fishing for these fish a lot of times is using this scavenger approach. I remember years ago on Lake Champlain, and lampreys had always been a huge, huge factor there of destroying the fishery. They would kill so many of the fish. But between New York and Quebec and Vermont, they all agreed to a program of a pesticide that only killed lampreys. Anyway, I'm getting behind with the story. But because the lake trout fishery tended to grow and grow in Champlain, because of the nature of Champlain and some of the rocky shorelines, there were places where people that didn't have a boat could fish from shore. And one of the most popular ways of fishing for lake trout from shore was using this rig from Scandinavia that had double hooks. It was designed to kill the fish because what it was the hooks, you would hook into a dead minnow, and there would be a hook near the tail and one in the front. And the whole, I guess the premise behind this kind of fishing is you would cast out and let the minnow sit on the bottom. It was dead. It just lay there on the bottom. And then you'd sit there along the rocks and you'd wait and you'd watch your rod. And all of a sudden you'd see the line moving. And what had happened is a lake trout had come into the area, seen that dead minnow on the bottom, and went down and scooped it up and eaten it. And it's the same thing that happens with northern pike. Well, muskies are a cousin of the northern pike. So let me tell you a story. My buddy Chris Lasham, who is an avid muskie fisherman on our small tributaries. And he told me this story, and I've known Chris for some time, and he's just a tremendously intelligent and straightforward person. He isn't one to exaggerate at all. He's telling me about a time he's in one of our tributaries, and he was in his little boat, and he was fishing for muskies, and he came to this pool in the river, and he could see this muskie had just attacked a giant sucker, and it had that sucker near the surface, and it was splashing around, and it was something that was just something to see. But apparently the muskie noticed that he had entered the pool with his little canoe, and the muskie dropped the sucker, and it turned. Now I'm giving it almost human characteristics here, but it turned its body and slowly swam out of the pool, and the sucker was maybe dead now or basically alive, and it fluttered down to the bottom of the pool. Water was very clear, and Chris could see all this. So he left the pool, went to another part of the river and fished. But he was thinking about this muskie because it was a big one. And so later, a few hours later, he returned to the pool. But he was very cautious as he came upon the water. And when he got to the pool, he looked, and there was that muskie down on the bottom, chomping on this sucker that it had killed before. It remembered. It returned to the pool. It returned to the spot of the battle, and it was eating. It was just laying there on the bottom, eating that sucker. And this story it stuck with me. It was such a thing to see. Chris never hooked it. I guess the muskie didn't leave its sucker this time, and it was unwilling to leave the pool. But the point of it is, fish do this a lot. They will attack, and they will wound, and they will come back later. Maybe they're attacking a whole bunch of bait fish. They'll go through and they'll just like slash and slash and slash and kill these prey, and then they will come back to the area and feed on what they left on the bottom. And so if we're fishing for these fish, I wanted you to think and remember that there's more ways to fish than a lot of times we do. A lot of times we want to lure something that's moving, wiggling. But a lot of dead fishing on the bottom, it takes patience, and it takes an understanding that those fish will come and feed upon that dead bait. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report.